When the powers way above my pay grade asked me to do a podcast as my full-time job, it took about a week for me to realize they were serious. Here we are, 17 months later, and just shy of 4 years after we kicked off the Dattitude Podcast with Stan Verrett on episode number 1. We're celebrating episode number 400 today. To do so, we knew we needed someone special to commemorate, so we grabbed, quite possibly, the greatest sportscaster in the history of the greatest city in the world. Jim Henderson is here, and we discuss his travels to New Orleans 47 years ago as he was replacing a longtime legend in Hap Glaudi, how he became the voice of the New Orleans Saints, and what it was like to not only be in that role for 30 years, but to work alongside legends Archie Manning, Hokie Gajan, and Deuce McAllister, and to call the two-game Saints fans thought they may never hear the victorious NFC title game in the Superdome on January the 24th, 2010, and when pigs flew and hell froze over, and when it was time to party with the Lombardi 2 weeks later. Let's have a little fun on this very special Dattitude Podcast, which starts now. I think.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Pigs have indeed flown, although they sort of moved somewhere off to the northeast, somewhere. Hell froze over, but it's sort of thawing out. Nevertheless, we plan on reminiscing and having one heck of a time here on Dattitude, episode number 400, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, August the 8th, 2010. I'm your host, Jim Derry. If you don't know that already, 35 years in New Orleans sports media scene, and honored to be joined in a little bit by a legend in my business. We thank you for being here and being a part of the Dattitude family. Jim Henderson, a couple notes real quick, as you can see on the screen what is coming up later on. I'm sorry to say that it is not going to be a live interview. We had to record it earlier. We had to do it by phone. First time that ever since we started this quote unquote rebrand, since we started doing this live all the time. We actually did an interview by phone. It came out well, but Jim, a couple of different reasons why we had to do it by phone and by tape. So when we get to that, we will certainly show comments as we're going along. I'll be monitoring them. The interview is about 27 minutes, I believe. Oh no, it's a little longer than that. It's about 30 minutes. It's broken up into 3 parts. It's a little over 30 minutes. We had a great conversation, as you see on the coming up screen. How did a guy from upstate New York get here to New Orleans? We talk about that. His time replacing Hap Glaudi. For those of you my age or older, you remember that when he came in, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. Who's this guy from New York coming in here to take over for Hap? And so it was a big deal. I'm going to talk about that. How he became the voice of the New Orleans Saints. What led to that? His time as voice of the New Orleans Saints, working with Archie Manning, working with Hokie Gajan, working with Deuce McAllister, and then his time and his favorite moments. And of course, we're going to talk about the NFC Championship and Super Bowl week and what those were like for him. Was pigs have flown? Was that a line he thought about ahead of time, or did it just come out? So all these things, it was a fantastic conversation. In all my years in this business, and I told him this, and he was very gracious. He's had some health issues the past couple of years. Now, one I obviously knew about. He had open heart quadruple bypass surgery early last year, but he had another. He's had a couple other problems since then, and so, it was just great to get him on. He could not do video; he had to do it by phone. It doesn't matter. To have Jim Henderson on show number 400 was just fantastic. How can you be a part of the show? Well, you can't talk directly to Jim. Again, we will show your comments as he's speaking. If you have anything that you want to say, I'll be more than happy to show them because I'll be monitoring the comments as we run the pre-recorded. It was recorded this morning at 8 o'clock. So it wasn't like I recorded it, a week ago or whatever. We recorded it this morning, got on the phone and talked to him. But you're always a part of this show. That's why this show is different than so many others, because you can be a part of today's episode and every episode by typing in your comments. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching after the fact, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. If you're watching or listening after the fact and you want to get in touch with me, you can find me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email jderry@theadvocate.com, or comment on any of our past episodes. I read them all. In fact, I had a lot. Well, there have been a lot of comments on the YouTube stream the past week and a half to 2 weeks. We've gained quite a few subscribers. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. We appreciate the love. Give us a thumbs up, a like, if you don't mind. Some of you have been some great, gracious comments, and then others, as you might expect. We may talk about some of them later on today. We got so many people in the comment stream. Usually I wait a little bit longer, but I can't wait too long today, especially to our first commenter of the day, Rocky. Good morning. It's awesome to see Mr. Pigs have flown himself on the show. One of the greats. By the way, Rock, I just want to say that I saw on Facebook that your wife kicked your ass in bowling. So there are some good things about social media, and the fact that, what's going on, your wife bowled a 600 series, which is fantastic. And I see also that even when you're typing in your name, there's a picture of the screen of the score. Even when you're typing your name, going bowling, you type it in all caps. It's not just there on the Dattitude. You're not just screaming at us on Dattitude. Just messing with you. Charles Mangus, good morning. Thank you. Dattitude family, on this fine and hot humid day, we don't care. Show number 400. We are excited about it. It seems like we just did 300, and I'm not just saying that, because if you remember on show number 300, which was, I don't know, what was that, Gabe? That was during football season last year, like October-ish, November-ish, something around there. And what we did for show number 300 is we had 3 of our regulars. Now, we have more regulars today, obviously, than we had, almost a year ago, whatever it was. But we wanted to do something a little bit different. So it seems like we just did 300, and we're already to 400. So 500 will be here in no time, for sure. Rob, good morning. Glad you are here. I'm having some issues this morning with my mouse. Again, I've got to get this fixed. Brian S. Steve, good morning, Who Dat Nation. Apathy. You haven't heard a single peep about Isaiah Foskey. There were a lot of Isaiah Foskey comments on Wednesday's show. I didn't ignore them. I just didn't get back to him. He's cooked, isn't he? Do we really care at this point? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but do we really care what happens with Isaiah Foskey? I said it when they picked him. The day he was picked on the live draft show, I was pretty pissed. If you want to go back and find it, you can find it easily. It's not hard to find. It's somewhere buried in this channel. It's also on the Saints Insiders page. When they made the pick, I was pretty pissed about it. It was a worthless, wasted pick. It will always be a worthless, wasted pick. So whether he's cooked now, cooked tomorrow, or cooked when cut day comes, yeah, he's done. Kyle Sherman, Dattitudinals, are you real ready? Are we ready for the real quarterback competition to start? There is, how many times do I have to tell y'all this? Quit fooling yourselves. There is no quarterback competition. I'm going to get to that. You're jumping ahead of me, Kyle. S. Callie, good morning. Who Dat Nation? Let's go. Dylan Smith is here. Good morning. UBN, happy 400th. It is a happy 400th. It is also birthday weekend for a little girl who lives in this household. 14th birthday for little Ella Derry. It is a special weekend in the Dattitude household. No doubt about it. Dylan says he just watched Teron Armstead. Man, I know I'm clicking on this. I don't know if it's showing up or not. There it is. He had Cam Jordan on. Good listen. Okay, good to know. Might check it out. Owen Atelier, good morning. Attilio, good morning. Brian Cavett is here. Happy Dattitude 400. No giveaways. No, I'm working on the merch. I have not got the merch yet, but we're working on it. My freebie to you is most definitely our interview with Jim Henderson. He absolutely was the best. Pigs have flown. No doubt about it. We're excited about it. Phil Mariandy, good morning from a very hot Texas. Owen, thank you. And the congrats. Gerard, same to you. Congrats. We appreciate it. Cecil Evans, 400. Jim Henderson is New Orleans sports royalty. Hakeem dropped the ball. We didn't even bring that up. I should have, huh? I didn't even think about that. I don't know why, but I didn't want to keep him on too long. And we just kind of got rolling on some other things. It really is a great interview. John Carter is here. Good morning. Feel like we will be okay. Congrats on show number 400. Hope I have 400 more. So do I, my friend. Thank you so much. Booker, who dat, baby? Phil says Hap was the best ever. Man, Hap was special. I mean, again, those of you my age or older, I grew up with Hap. And when Jim Henderson came in, I will tell you, though, it didn't take long to get used to Jim. And, man, he was the guy he came in 78, so I was only 10 years old. That's who I grew up with. He was a part of my life for a long time, and he retired. It was kind of sad when he retired, but it was great to have him on the show. It was the first time I'd had a conversation with him. I've run into him before. I've never really talked to him, but it was great to be able to talk to him this morning for a half an hour or so. Michelle Castro, Eric Glotto, Neesmith, my favorite name to call out here on the show. Happy Friday. Kudos to 400. 40,000 more? That ain't happening. Michelle, I love you. I love all of you, but thank you. 40,000 ain't happening. 1,000 maybe. Even small possibility, who knows? Maybe 2,000. But 40,000? Yeah. Unless Gabe's doing the show then, and he's an old man and in his wheelchair doing show number 40. I'll be up from heaven watching that one. I hope I'm in heaven anyway. Phil says Hap was the best sports writer and sports commentator, not a play-by-play guy, just really involved in all NOLA sports at the time. Absolutely. No doubt about it. All right. We got plenty more comments, plenty more to get to. And yes, ask Callie, Rocky with the all caps. You got to love it. You got to love it. We talked about what's on the show today. I've got some other things to talk about before we get to Jim. And I'm going to do Jim's probably not, I'm probably not going to run his interview till probably about 11:30. We got so much to talk about this morning. Then Gabe's going to come on. I promised y'all this all week. We've been talking about it longer than a week. If you haven't noticed on our YouTube channel, I have started our NFL team previews. And the way that I'm doing them in shorts. So they're all 3 minutes or less. They're all basically right at 3 minutes. I'm giving you a rundown of whatever team that is, what they're going into this season. We talk about that schedule, and then I give you my prediction on over or under, whatever their over-under win total is at DraftKings. And I tell you why I like what I like. Gabe's going to tell me whether he agrees. We've done 8 of them. We do AFC East team in the morning, NFC East team in the afternoon. That ran Monday through Thursday. Next week we'll do AFC West in the morning, NFC West in the afternoon. And so Gabe is going to tell me every Friday, today and for the next 3 Fridays after, whether he agrees with my picks or disagrees. We're going to talk about that. It'll be how we end the show. But again, you see on the screen Jim Henderson coming up. But there's a couple things I want to talk about first. First off, I heard something last night as I was going to sleep, thinking about, the show today and what we're going to do. But I had on in background, just as background noise. If you can't you want to go to sleep, you put on a preseason game. That will help you go to sleep. So last night I turned on Seahawks Raiders preseason game. I'd never heard her before. Kate Scott is the play-by-play voice for the Raiders, and she is doing just the preseason stuff. I'm sorry, she's the voice of the Seahawks, excuse me, for their local, just like, what we have here going on. And it's not the same crew, obviously, once you get into the regular season. Anyway, she started off the broadcast with, "Welcome to the 50th season of Seattle Seahawks football." Now, do you know how old that made me feel? I remember, I'm serious. I'm not just saying that. I remember, we're talking about things that happened in the past today. I remember their first season back in 1976. Do you remember that it was only for 1 year, I believe, 1 or 2. I think it was 1. I think they switched them after the first year, but they were in the same division as the Saints in that first year in 1976. I remember I had my first little TV. It was a hand-me-down from my grandfather. It was a black and white TV that, I'm not joking, it had like a broken antenna, and you had to put aluminum foil on the antenna just to catch anything. Channel 4 at the time. Saints were playing at Seattle, beat the hell out of them, and I'd gotten punished. I'm telling you, the things that I remember, it's just, I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but I can remember stupid things like this. I'd gotten punished. I wasn't supposed to watch until I was like kind of sneaking in my room with the door closed and lights out. And it was one of those 3:00 games and, turning it on and watching it on a black and white TV. But the Saints whipped the Seahawks ass. I do remember. But to show you how old I am, that was in the Seahawks' first season. 1976. So when she said, welcome to the 50th season of Seattle Seahawks football, like, damn, I'm old. Damn, I am old. A couple other things. Archie Manning was on social media this week talking about, they asked him whether Arch will declare for the 2026 NFL draft. I saw, Gabe, you had said least surprising comment of the week. I don't disagree. We've talked about this. For those of you wanting to tank for Arch, it ain't happening. Archie Manning says, quote, this is a quote, Arch isn't going to do that. He will be at Texas. Mannings don't leave early. Have you noticed this? Just because it's now the grandson of Archie, he's not leaving. Not going anywhere. So those of you wanting to tank for Arch, it ain't happening. You'll have to tank this year and next year, which who knows, they may do on their own. But Arch Manning, I would be shocked, to be floored if he leaves. The only way he leaves, and even then I don't think it happens, if Texas wins the national championship, Arch wins the Heisman, then maybe he leaves because what does he have to go back for? But even then, he's a Manning. 99% of other people would leave. I don't know that he does it. We'll see. What about, what we always say about preseason? What is the most important thing about preseason? Not just for the Saints, but for everybody. What is preseason about for teams with legit chances to make a run? How about don't get your players hurt? That is the number one rule of preseason. It's not who look. Look, we could talk about the quarterback derby. We will talk about the QB1 derby today and until the season starts or until they announce who the quarterback one is going to be for the Saints. But what the hell are the Bengals doing playing Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, especially as much as they did? Jamar Chase last night I had to look at this 8 times to make sure this is true. Jamar Chase had 4 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. That's like regular season numbers. That's like a little slightly below average regular season game. What the hell is he doing? What are you doing, Bengals? Meanwhile, at the same time, Anthony Richardson, this is a shock. I know this will come as a shocker, but Anthony Richardson already hurt. He dislocated his pinky finger. It doesn't matter how the dude is going to get hurt. That's what he does. So I expect Daniel Jones to be the quarterback of that team. I mean, come on, man. Really? Gabe says Zach Taylor said he was playing them early to avoid a third straight slow start. I don't give a damn. You know what you do to avoid a slow start? Not having Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase get hurt. That's what you do. That was and then again, we see Anthony Richardson get hurt. CeeDee Deuce. Oh, them Texans. CeeDee Deuce. He quote in The Athletic, quote, avoided the ACL tear. Did get hurt. We'll see how long he's out. Chargers Pro Bowl left tackle Rashawn Slater out for the season after tearing his patellar tendon. Yikes. So the Los Angeles Chargers, a lot of people are picking them. I'm not kidding. And I think it's just you're tired of the Chiefs. That's the only reason to pick the Chargers to win the AFC West. Literally, not to give any spoiler alerts. Literally, the only reason to pick the Chargers to win the AFC West is because you have Chiefs fatigue. You're sick of the Chiefs because they ain't better than the Chiefs. But now they're missing their left tackle, and that is going to be a major problem for the Chargers. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about it when we watch the Saints-Chargers game this weekend. Okay, we're about to switch out of this slide here and talk about Saints for just a few minutes before we get to, in fact, I am going to switch out of this. I'm going to talk about here. Again, Jim Henderson, I'm going to play his interview in about 10 minutes, 11:30. Jim Henderson will be on at 11:30. And again, for those of you who weren't here with us in the beginning, it is a recorded interview. First one we've ever done by phone. It came out great, though. I promise you. It's 30 minutes, just slightly over 30 minutes. And he talks about everything. It's fantastic. That's coming up in 10 minutes. But I got some more comments to talk about and show you. Lots of changes since episode 1, you think? We were episode 1. I was actually in my den recording audio, and we did our interviews via Zoom call. That's how you can go back and listen to, if you want to listen to episode 1, Stan Verrett, you got to go find it on SoundCloud. You can find it on SoundCloud, or actually wherever you get your podcast, audio podcast, and you got to scroll a long way. But Stan Verrett was, at the time, obviously working for ESPN, was our first ever guest. But that's how we did them back then. When we had guests, we had to record them via Zoom, and then I turned it into a podcast when I was still learning how to audio edit. Bruce Chappelle, or Chappell, I'm not sure. It says, Rattler. Rattler what? Rattler what? I guess you haven't. You see, all the Rattler lovers out there, and I'm not trying to piss anybody off, but this is the truth. This is just true. This is realism. Okay. They love to use the stats and who started, who played with the ones when their guy does it. When their guy does it, told you. Did you read the story today? NOLA.com/Saints. Let's just say it leads like this. I think this one was written by Luke. Straight off of NOLA.com/Saints. I encourage everyone to go check out our Saints insiders. Rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck handled the lion's share of the first team snaps before the team split its work on the separate fields. A tactic head coach Kellen Moore has been using to steal some additional practice snaps in the allotted time. Is it a big deal? No, not really. Does it mean anything? Who knows? The point is, it didn't mean anything before when Rattler had snaps with the ones for 2 days in a row, and the media made a huge deal out of it. Lots of media members made huge deals out of the fact that Rattler had started 2 days in a row. Here we are, just a few days before the Sunday game, and Shuck was in there with the ones. Does it mean anything? No. Does it mean anything who starts Sunday's game? No, it doesn't. It means nothing. I still think Rattler's going to start Sunday's game. But I do think that at some point in the near future, the very near future, I do think that he will announce, Kellen Moore will announce who that quarterback is going to be. We're going to get there. Who that daddy thinks it's the Rat. If I can show, come on, show the comments. Who that, baby? Let's see. What else we got? Juliet is here. Juliet, happy Friday. Happy Friday. Earl's Picks. You used to confuse Jim Henderson with the Muppets guy? Oh, Jim Henson. Jim Henderson and Jim Henson. I gotcha. Well, at least you couldn't confuse him with Gabe Henderson. Gabe's too young to confuse him with Gabe Henderson. Brian wanted to know, did I audition for play-by-play after Streif left the coach? I would be awesome, but then we wouldn't have Dattitude. I did not. I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing. Don't get me wrong. I would. That's of course a dream job. I would love to be the play-by-play voice of the New Orleans Saints. I think they've got a good one. I think Mike Hoss has done a really good job. Zach needed some work, but the answer is no. I'm happy in my own little play-by-play world doing high school games in Archbishop Shaw High School. I don't know that they can handle my style. Just saying. Let's see what else we got here. JC's here. What is going on? Hello from Denver. 97 degrees in Denver. It's going to be hotter in Denver than it is in New Orleans. I'm still mad. Second round. Oh, you mean you're mad about Foskey? Yeah, me too. I get you. Brian says he's going to the new Buc-ee's. Okay. Let us know how it is. Hakeem, big dog, you are here. History Gone Mad says Rattler is obviously, it is obvious he's the guy. What are y'all going to do when it's not him? Seriously. What are y'all going to do when he doesn't win the job? When he sucked, when y'all hated Carr, Rattler, then he came on and started and he sucked. Y'all disappeared. And then Carr left. They brought in Shuck, and now y'all are back again. Are y'all going to, if Shuck comes on, y'all will disappear until Shuck sucks, and then they'll bring Rattler on, and y'all will be back to your old, Rattler. We love Rattler. And then he'll suck. The point is, there is no good quarterback. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think there's a good quarterback on this roster. I think we're going to be going through this whole thing again next year. I hope I'm wrong. UBN says USA Today predicts the Saints go 2-15. I saw that. I think it's a little low. Possible, yeah. Wanda Bertrand, congrats. And on your birthday, well, happy birthday. Is also a good friend of mine. It's birthday. Luann Marchand, her birthday is today. Again, Sunday is my daughter Ella's 14th birthday. Apathy wants some numbnuts merch. Okay. We can figure out how to do that. I'm going to let Gabe draw it. I'm going to put it on a shirt. Oscar, good morning. Rocky, yeah, she did whip your ass. Make sure I let you know. Let her know. What else we got here? Black Preacher Man is here. Salute. Who dat, baby? Who dat? What else we got before we start getting to what's really not that y'all aren't really. Oh, I forgot. You know what's really important? Oh man. 400th episode. It's 11:27. I'm just getting to my friends. I apologize, Nick. We love you, man. I'm so excited today. Almost. How could I forget? I didn't forget. Here we are. Before we get to the rest of the show, Jim Henderson, let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, maybe more importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you or someone you know, someone you love, someone you don't love, whatever. If you know they need some help, you know they're thinking about selling their business, it's time, you, them, whoever, to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. Do it now. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices either on Poydras Street, where Jim Henderson worked for 30 years, or in Lafayette. From there, you will be well-informed, begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? Well, we'll fill you in more later in the show. We know you can wait a few minutes. In the meantime, get ready to listen to Jim Henderson, and you can check out our friends at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay, I got some more Saints stuff to talk about, but I'm going to hold it off until after Jim. We have waited long enough. It's 11:28. A couple more comments first. Again, I will be showing some comments during Jim's interview. If you want to comment, he cannot hear you. Again, it's a recorded interview. I can't show him to him. He's already gone for the day. But again, I will show comments if you want to say things while he's talking. Ron Henderson says, happy Dattitude 400th show. Looking forward to the next 400. Keep them coming. I hope we get 400 more. I hope we get 800 more, maybe even 1,200 more. Not 40,000 more. That's for Gabe to do. The great Jim Henderson is in the Dattitude house. Absolutely. Lance Dobard, 400, baby. We have made it. Let's see. What else before we go? Todd Whittington, my director, my VSN director. I'm his play-by-play guy. Man, we got a great team. I can't wait. The team will be back together very soon. All right. There's some comments asking me about Rattler and blah, 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 and whatever. Ken Nagelberg, how many wins? 3, 4, or 5? I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't done my official prediction. I don't want to get too many spoiler alerts on this show. Dylan, happy birthday, Ella Derry. Thank you. Okay. With that, and let's see. Gabe says he's got a graphic idea, by the way. Bottle of Icy Hot next to some boxes with numbnuts over it. You got to put the Dattitude logo in the boxers, and then we got it. I think you're on to something here. All right, here we go. Jim Henderson this morning, again, had to record it. He's got some health issues going on, and this was the best way to get him on it. When you get a chance to get Jim Henderson, you don't care how you get him. You just get him on the show. And here he is. This is a little over 30 minutes. We'll come back, talk about it, talk more about the Saints, have Gabe on and talk about the NFL, our NFL divisional previews when we return. 30 minutes of Jim Derry with Jim Henderson. Jim Derry here with Jim Henderson this morning on our 400th episode of the Dattitude Podcast. So glad to have Jim with us here to celebrate. Jim, welcome to the show for the first time.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Jim, just first of all, I want to talk about and ask you how you're doing. I know last you had some pretty serious surgery, open heart surgery. How have you been doing?
I've been doing fine. It's ever since I just turned 79 over the last week. I don't know how I ever got there, but once I became 77, 78, and 79, I've had some serious health issues each of those 3 years. And so the first one was quadruple bypass surgery and aortic valve replaced when I was 77 and 78. It was a blockage in my bladder that had to be addressed. And the most recent one is 3 weeks ago this weekend, due to a combination of low blood pressure and probably being dehydrated in the heat. I face planted in our house at noon
goodness.
Out of nowhere. I mean, had no warning whatsoever. So in doing that, I've got 3 small fractures in my shoulder and cut my eye, and I got my arm in a sling, and it'll probably be that way for another 5 weeks or so. So there have been some challenges, but I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Well, we're so glad to have you on. I'm going through that. I'm sorry to hear that. And look, I know the people, and I know my listeners, we talk mostly Saints here on the show, about 80%, 70 to 80% Saints. And I know they appreciate hearing from you, and glad that you're willing to take some time with us.
Sure. My pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about what you've been retired now for a little bit. What do you miss most about being, not necessarily being on every day, but just what do you miss most about maybe the microphone, maybe the people? What is it the most that you missed?
I'd say the people, the press corps, the guys that you'd be with almost every day out at practice, that you'd travel with, that you'd have dinner with on the road and share laughter, the heartaches, and occasionally the last-second victories. It's something that really can't be duplicated. I've always said that being a play-by-play announcer, especially as the hometown team's announcer, that you probably get as close as you can to actually playing, as far as feeling the emotions of the team, sharing in their victories to a degree, and commiserating in their defeats. So I think that's the thing I miss the most, the opportunity to be with the guys, and to realize at times, especially on a Saturday night on the road when you're maybe in a San Diego or somewhere, how truly fortunate you are, and how many people would like to be in your position.
Jim, is it the play-by-play you miss more than the day-to-day being on the air and giving us the sports news?
I think so, because it's always the unknown. You want to be prepared as you can be, but you can only be prepared to a certain degree, and then you have to react to what you're seeing and utilize what you've learned. And you might use something that you learned 5 minutes before kickoff, or something that you learned 5 years ago about the team. So I think the challenge of that is the thing I miss the most. The day-to-day stuff, 5, 6, and 10, that can kind of become drudgery. So I would say it's a play-by-play opportunity. I was really fortunate because I got the best of both worlds, and not a lot of guys have that opportunity. Usually you've got to be one or the other. You've got to be the studio host, reporter guy, or you've got to be the play-by-play guy because of the commitments that you make travel-wise and time-wise and being out of town-wise. So I was very fortunate to have both those things at the same time for 30 years.
How does a guy from New York State end up in New Orleans, Louisiana?
How much time you got?
As much as you want.
Well, I knew I never wanted to spend the rest of my life on the shores of Lake Ontario during February. So I always wanted to come south, and we had spent some time in the South on vacations. And so my wife and I were both committed to moving south when I got the opportunity. And after I got out of grad school at Syracuse, that's what we did. Moved south. I couldn't find a job anywhere in television after getting my master's, and then eventually found my way into the business in Fort Myers, Florida, to a degree. Then I went to Panama City, where they're opening up a new NBC affiliate. Got a great break to do that. And from there, everybody has a different route and a different story. I had the opportunity to go to Atlanta. I always followed the Braves. I knew the Braves really well. So in covering the Braves in Atlanta, there wasn't much you could do in Panama City in the off season to fill up shows. And I used to get 6.5 minutes per show. And so I'd go to Atlanta and stockpile these interviews. And at the time, Milo Hamilton was the voice of the Braves.
Right.
I interviewed him, and he took a liking to me and realized that I knew the team well. And so he promoted me to WSB, which was the flagship radio station of the Braves, and where Milo also did TV work. So he recommended me if they ever added a third guy to the staff. They did, and I got that opportunity. And then in working there, this happens in the business. Some guy, one of the guys that worked at WSB in promotions, was hired as the number one guy in promotions at WWL. They were looking for a sportscaster to replace Hap Glaudi. He recommended me, and I got the job. And some 30 years later, still have it, or at least did have it.
The rest is history, as they say. Milo Hamilton, by the way, very famous call of Hank Aaron's 715th home run, longtime announcer for the Braves, and then later on the Houston Astros. Fantastic. And I know, when you were at Channel 4, baseball was actually on CBS at the time. It's pretty big.
Yeah, when I was at Channel 4, CBS, especially in 1990, they called that their dream season. They had all this product. They had Major League Baseball. They had the NBA. It was the first year they were going to do wall-to-wall coverage of postseason basketball. So they had baseball. They had everything going on. And I was hired along with Brad Nessler because they needed additional announcers to fill out the schedule because they had so much going on. So I spent the year of 1990 during football season with Hank Stram doing games on CBS, and Brad Nessler, who'd been the voice of the Vikings, does a great job. He was hired as well, and we came on to fill the void of the people that they needed during that time. I think the world of Brad. I think he does a great job, and he's gone on, obviously, and done all right for himself.
Jim, when you came here in 1978, Hap Glaudi was loved. He was a treasure. For those who don't remember, who aren't maybe as old as I am, because I do remember. That had to be a tough time for you to come in and take over for someone like that.
Well, I've told this story oftentimes. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I didn't know the depth of admiration for Hap and how much local people meant to the people of New Orleans. It was something you really couldn't overcome coming from the outside, especially if you're coming from Atlanta. And so when I got here, I was really kind of astounded by the depth of feeling for Hap. And there were some radio broadcasters, Keith Rush at the time. They had talk shows, and they were promoting the fact that I was coming in to replace this local legend in Hap Glaudi. So the first show that we ever did at 5 o'clock, Bill Elder was the anchor man. And the first story we did when I was there was to take a studio camera and put it outside of Rampart Street and take shots of the people picketing me.
That's awesome.
People had signs saying, "Don't scrap Hap, age discrimination." And so that was the first thing that we did. And I had an armed guard for a week because they were afraid somebody was going to shoot me.
This isn't the Howard Johnson Hotel, Jim Henderson.
Wasn't far from it.
Well, you quickly endeared yourself to the people of New Orleans. How do you think you did it?
Well, I had great support. I knew coming in, I'd done a lot of research about Channel 4 through people in Atlanta, through a guy named John Furman, who worked for Cox, who was a big friend of Milo's. And when I got this opportunity, I asked him to give me a rundown in WWL-TV, and he couldn't have given me a more glowing one. He said, it's legendary. They got a great general manager in Mike Early. They do extremely well in the ratings. They make a great profit. You couldn't go to a better place. So I was confident in coming here, and it wasn't like I was the savior. They already had a great staff in place, and we're adding better people all the time. I mean, I think back to when I came in 78. Right about that time, they had just hired Angela Hill, Eric Paulson, Dennis Waltering, Sally Ann Roberts. All these people came in around the same time. So it wasn't just on me, and I realized that a station like this isn't going to make this fundamental a change without a reason. So I was supported great by Phil Johnson and Mo Gillerman, Mike Early, all the people at Channel 4.
And the nightly broadcast of you and Angela and Garland and Nash Roberts back in the time. I mean, Channel 4 was the big station anyway, but it just made it that much bigger. I mean, talk about the heyday of Channel 4 and the late 70s and all the way through the 80s and into the 90s.
Well, I think we all owe it mostly to Mike Early. He had a great vision, and he really had a good eye for talent and who would fit in and who wouldn't. And so Mike was great about adding people like the people I just mentioned of the same vintage. And Nash had worked at 2 other stations at 6 and 8 at the time. And when he came up, Nash was a great businessman, always knew exactly where he stood. And so Mr. Early had done through people that had Channel 4 had hired to survey the market. They had told him, you get Nash Roberts and you're going to have 10,000 more homes in the first ratings book. It's exactly what they had. And so Nash was the final piece of the puzzle. And while we were all together, I think it was a pretty good group.
Your early days as play-by-play guy, how did that happen? First of all, Wayne Mack, I remember growing up listening to Wayne Mack on the radio and his calls, the redhead from Drew, Mississippi drops back, I'll never forget those days when I was a kid. But how did you come into being the play-by-play, the voice of the New Orleans Saints?
Kind of through the back door. One of the reasons I took the job at Channel 4 was the opportunity to do preseason broadcast on WWL, pardon me. And so that was one of the reasons I came there. At the time, WWL did not have the Saints games on radio, only had preseason television. And so while I was there and doing that, they eventually got the broadcast back. And so they added myself, miscast as the color analyst along with Larry Matson, great guy. And midway through the 85 season, Archie Manning retired with the Vikings, and he was added as the third guy in our booth. And in the off season, they decided to make it a 2-man booth, and I had done no play-by-play to speak of, maybe a little in preseason once in a while. Excuse me.
Sure.
And so at the time, Chris Myers was on our staff. Chris was a very energetic guy and very driven, and saw an opportunity and went to the management and said, I want to be the play-by-play man for the Saints broadcast. And when I heard that, I said, this is not right. I'm the number one guy at this station, and if anybody's going to have that job, it should be me. I went to Mr. Early and said exactly that. I'd be more than happy to see this group continue. Larry Matson's a great guy, does a great job, but if you're going to replace him, the play-by-play guy of this broadcast should be me. And he agreed. So I kind of came in through the back door with very little experience. That
worked out pretty well for the city of New Orleans and the Saints. I know, and obviously you did that gig for 30 years, and just the early days and talking about working with Archie Manning. I mean, that you guys were so great together. You had a rapport right away. Well, I knew Archie well from covering him. I used to say I'd covered him in a losing locker room so often, I probably saw him more nude than his wife did. I admired Archie so much. He was such a good guy. And there were a lot of tough times, and I think that's when you really learn about people. And it could be the toughest loss, and Archie'd still be there answering the question from anybody. You might have been one of them at the time. No matter where you came from, if you were willing to stick around and talk to Archie about the game, he'd accommodate you. So I knew what a great guy he was, and he had such credibility. Even though he was raw as a broadcaster, he was Archie Manning, and they don't make many of those. So he could, we used to say, Archie could say the football is filled with feathers instead of inflated, and Saints fans would have believed him. Talk a little bit about your time working with Art. I mean, you know, Archie was a legend in New Orleans, obviously, for his days as quarterback, and then he just kind of fit in here. But the rapport you guys had working together, what was that like in the days of Jim Mora and, you know, kind of coming up together, at least in broadcasting the Saints? Well, timing is everything in anybody's career, and the timing I had was very fortuitous. When I became the voice of the Saints, it was 1986. Archie became the color analyst.
Jim Moore became the coach. Jim Finks became the general manager, and the halcyon days of the Saints began. And I was fortunate enough to be in the announcer's chair when it all came together. So, you could be the same broadcaster and be doing, a 1 in 15 Saints team and doing the same job, and nobody would have noticed. But Archie was so easy to work with. He never demanded anything. He was Archie Manning. He could have demanded anything. And I'll give you an example. When I went to work for CBS with Hank Stram, he sat me down to give me some counseling as to what it was like to work with Hank. And Hank was a great guy, but he had this huge ego that Archie never displayed. And he said, now you've worked with Archie Manning. He said, I need more room than that. He said, what you do, you get in, call the play-by-play, who carried the ball, who caught the ball, who dropped the ball, get in and out as fast as you can, so you leave as much time as you can for me, because I'm the person that people want to hear on this broadcast. I said, oh, okay. And
do we think he told that to Vince Scully when he worked with Vince Scully, Jim?
He hated Vince Scully.
Did he really?
Yeah. Well, I'm telling stories about Hank he's been gone for quite some time now.
I got to meet him a few times. He was a great guy. He lived up here in Covington. I live in Mandeville, and I know you've spent some time up here in the North Shore. So I got to meet Hank a couple times.
Yeah, he was my neighbor.
I didn't realize that.
Riverwood. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was, Hank was totally opposite from Archie. He had a huge ego, but I remember saying he wouldn't always have something to say. I mean, you're not going to have an analyst who, most of the time, is going to jump in and have a perspective on every single play. So I said, well, what do I do when you don't say anything? He said, well, you just lay out until I do. It makes for a real good broadcast, doesn't it?
That's fantastic. That's great stuff. I actually do. I've done play-by-play on the side for 11 years doing high school football around here with my good friend Jim Rapier. So I know I've been lucky enough to have the same color analyst since I started, and we're yin and yang. So I know how important it is to have someone that you're familiar with and to have a rapport, because having a broadcast without a rapport is tough.
You're exactly right. I've just been reading some articles about that. In fact, reading this book on ESPN and how certain pairings didn't work out, and one of them was Mike Tirico, and who's an incredible broadcaster.
He's phenomenal.
And Wilbon, and Tirico would never bail him out. He didn't like him, didn't think he deserved to be there. So they made for a very uncomfortable broadcast. You got to have a partner who's going to cover for you for the inevitable mistakes, who's going to be there when you're down. Maybe you've had something going on in your life, or you're not as prepared as you should be, or you don't feel well. You've got to have somebody who's got your back. And really great broadcast teams do.
Amen. That is 100% true. I can only imagine how fun your times with Hokie were.
Oh, boy. Love that guy so much. I miss him so much. I'm thinking of all the Hokie-isms that down through the years, and some people would always ask me, "Oh, tell me about Hokie." I said, "Well, he always had these colorful sayings." I remember one of the first games that we did together. We were out, I think, in San Francisco, and Aaron Brooks was the quarterback of the Saints, and he was getting rushed like crazy. So he'd drop back, and there'd be pressure from the right. He'd turn around, he'd pirouette, go to his left, more pressure there, turn around, go back the other way to his right, looking for some avenue to throw the football. And I remember Archie saying, "Boy, you look down there, that Aaron Brooks is running around like a sprayed roach."
That's something only Hokie could say, for sure. I think about the time, the Super Bowl and the ball being picked off, and you making your great call, and Hokie just laughing in the background. I mean, that was some of the best color analysis I've ever heard.
Well, he was Hokie enjoyed himself in the booth, and I mean, he emoted so much. It wasn't always easy doing the play-by-play because he'd be going, "Oh God, oh
right,
no, no, no."
right.
And probably as a play-by-play guy, you're trying to figure out, did I get the call right? Did I identify the guy right? Have I missed anything in this call? And it's hard to do when sometimes somebody's talking over you throughout. But that was just hokey, and it made for a special broadcast because he was so into it.
How'd you get used to that?
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get used to that? Because he would, I mean, as a play-by-play, I guess in the beginning it was tough to get used to, but you got your routine, you got your things to say, and then you just kind of have to stop when he starts talking.
Well, you just realize that's what was coming, and it was just so much fun to be with him all the time. And what a shame that his maladies took him so early.
There's no doubt about it. He was fantastic. And then you get basically kind of a polar opposite in Deuce, right? I mean, Deuce is just what I didn't know what he was going to turn into, but man, what a color analyst, and just he has really worked into this job from day one to now. I mean, he's a guy that I've come to rely on and just want to listen to all the time. And I didn't know that he was going to be that in the beginning.
No, I mean, he didn't have much background in doing it, but he's got a special talent. As Mike Haas and the guys who work with him now will tell you, he sees the whole field, and he sees things that most people who are even longtime viewers of the game don't appreciate. So he's got a special insight. He's a great guy to work with. And when I look at the color analysts I was blessed with, I mean, I had Archie Manning, I had Stan Brock,
oh, that's right.
I had Hokie, and then I had Deuce. So, I mean, you can't have very, very many people that would be in that lineup that you wouldn't enjoy and love working with.
That's for sure. Look, I know we've gone over a little bit, but I can't let you go without talking about obviously the Super Bowl and just that season, that magical season, the fourth season of Peyton and Breeze, and just kind of came out of the blue. Jim, I mean, obviously that 06 season was magical, and no one expected this team to go to the NFC Championship, but then kind of two humdrum seasons and then the Super Bowl. What was 2009 like for you?
Well, I think that I felt very early on in that season that there was something special going on there. And before the season started, people are always want you to make a prediction. And so I was on with Bill Elder, I think at noon, and he said, well, what do you think the Saints are going to do this year? And somewhat sarcastically, and because people are always asking you for your prediction, I said, I think the Saints are going to win the Super Bowl. And, of course, they did, so it made me look clairvoyant. But I was just screwing around, actually. But I think you knew that there was really, and, of course, they got off to that incredible start. But I think you realized there really was something special going on. And it was a magical season. Who knows if we'll ever have another one? I hope they do, for Mike Haas's sake and all the good people on the broadcast. I hope they get the opportunity to do what I did, and that's call the home team's win in the Super Bowl. But judging by where they are right now, it could take a while.
It certainly could. Mike Haas actually has been on the show a few times, and I thank him, and I agree with you. I mean, I think it would be great for Mike, who kind of traveled your shoes, right? I mean, at Channel 4 for a long time and did his thing, and now gets a chance to do play-by-play. I would love to see that. But talk about the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl itself, and your famous call, after the NFC Championship game, pigs have flown. Did that just come to you? I mean, I know Al Michaels talks about do you believe in miracles, and he had kind of thought of this ahead of time. And was it something that you had thought about ahead of time, or did it just kind of come to you?
I had thought about it. I'd be out mowing my lawn. I'd say to myself, what would I say if the Saints ever won the Super Bowl? And there were people in the stands that would have signs when the Saints were going well. Pigs fly, hell freezes over. So I thought, that'd be an interesting call if the Saints did do it, especially on the last play. And, of course, that occurred with Hartley's kick. And so when Hartley had that kick, and it was such a climactic moment, and it was so cathartic that the Saints were finally going to go to the Super Bowl, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I was going to keep this call for the Super Bowl, but who knows if I'll ever get a chance to use it. So I said, all right, that's where I came up with, pigs have flown, hell is frozen over, the Saints are on their way to the Super Bowl. And after I said, I wonder if that was really corny. How bad or how good was that call? I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was serviceable. And I remember walking out of the booth, and I saw a bunch of the reporters who'd been listening to the game. They all said, great call, great call. But you know the whole key to a call like that is being the guy in the chair that gets the chance to do it.
That's absolutely
I mean, you look at some of the great calls. Al Michaels obviously had probably the best ever. But he had predetermined that he was going to say something like that. Jim Nance on golf, who's just so good, especially in a tournament where he knows that Tiger's going to win it. He goes in with such a lead in the final round. He has in his mind what he's going to say when the final putt drops, because he knows that's going to be the highlight that'll be used forever to encapsulate what that tournament was like or what the story of the tournament was. So I think you do yourself a disservice if you don't have something planned. Now, it doesn't have to be Shakespeare. You look at some of the great calls that have ever been made. The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. Havlicek stole the ball. Havlicek stole the ball. They're just exclamatory statements, but it's the moment. You're a part of that moment, and you're conveying that sort of enthusiasm and that sort of excitement. And that's what makes those calls great, not necessarily that they were the most flowery or again, that they were Shakespeare. But you want to convey the emotion more than anything. And usually it's just a simple exclamatory statement that does it.
And meanwhile, straight from the heart, I know you didn't plan this. He made it. You could feel the release when Hartley made the field goal, and it's good. It's good. I mean, I'll remember that as much as the pigs have flown. That obviously was not, that just came out of you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it wasn't that long a field goal, but, having watched the Saints for 25 years at that time, you always expected the worst, and you usually weren't disappointed. So I'm thinking, not only is he probably going to miss the field goal, it's going to get blocked, and they're going to take it back for the touchdown to win the game. So when it actually did go between the uprights, and that's a relief that I felt, and I think Saints felt the same way, because they'd had so many disappointments that finally things fell in their favor. So, I think in many ways that game with Hartley, to me, was more exciting and a bigger highlight than the Saints actually winning the Super Bowl, because you knew for the final 3 minutes of that game against the Colts that the Saints were probably going to win.
100%. It was, I don't want to say it was anticlimactic, because that'd be a little overboard, but it was not the same as the NFC Championship. I tell people all the time, I think the biggest game in Saints history was actually the NFC Championship game, and not as much the Super Bowl. I think the gods were involved more in the NFC Championship game, because frankly, the Saints didn't deserve to win. In my opinion, they found a way. That Super Bowl, what are those 2 weeks like, real quick, leading up to and then calling the game? I mean, was it a blur? Do you remember the 2 weeks, or was it all just a blur and you just did the game and the next thing you know, the Saints won the Super Bowl?
Well, that's a good question, because, obviously we were a place the Saints had never been. For those 2 weeks, everybody around the country, because there's nothing else going on, wants to talk to you about especially the victory, the way it came against the Vikings. And you don't want to turn anybody down, because you realize how much it means to have somebody on who's going to be a part of this. And as a broadcaster, I better enjoy this. This may never happen again in my career. So you try to accommodate everybody, which means there's almost no time for preparation. I mean, you're going to call the biggest game of your career, and yet you have very little time to prepare, because you've got so many other things going on. We were in Miami on TV every night, so there was very little time for preparation. And I remember Friday night I was doing things that usually I would have been doing like on Monday or Tuesday of that week, because there was so little time. So I remember going to the game, and you got there very early, and walking over through the crowd and saying to myself, well, win or lose, this is all going to be over in about 5 hours. So, if they lose, well, it's been a great time, but at least this week's going to be over. And then, of course, they won. But as a broadcaster doing television and radio, as soon as that game was over, we had to hustle down on the field and do TV. So I've told people oftentimes the one thing I miss out of that period of time was the chance to really enjoy the Saints as a fan, because we didn't get a chance to celebrate or be a part of the Hartley kick and the excitement that was going on the field after the game and in the community. and people talking about all the we poured out of our houses into the streets, and the horns were honking, and people were partying and hugging each other. We never got a chance to participate in that because we were so busy doing television. But it was a great time that I'll treasure the rest of my life, and hopefully, again, that someone else will have an opportunity to enjoy.
Did you ever actually get to party with the Lombardi?
No, in fact, that was the line that this lady, you always want to have something memorable to say, and hopefully I did in some of those things, some of those instances. But she had written me and said, if the Saints win, you ought to say, because of New Orleans' background and reputation, it's time to party with the Lombardi, New Orleans. So that was something that I stole from somebody. And as Milton Berle used to say, I know a good line when I steal one.
That's awesome. Jim Henderson, I can't thank you enough for coming speak to us via phone, and we have nothing but well wishes for you. We miss you so much here on the air. Look, as someone who has been in this business for 35 years, I've always looked up to you. I don't know that we ever met in person. I know we passed each other a couple of times. I know you don't know it, but I sure do. And but I thank you for everything that you've given to this city, both professionally and personally. And we love you here, and we hope you're. You start feeling better and everything goes well for a little while.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you so much.
Great, Jim Henderson, everyone. Look, that was I've done a lot of interviews with a lot of people in my career, whether it be on the show or as a sports writer. And I've talked to, a lot of big names, and I'm not throwing big names out there, but I always appreciate those sorts of interviews more than talking to big name coaches or big name players. Though that interview means more to me. I will remember that one more, and I enjoyed that one more than a lot of the other interviews that I've done. So anyway, I thank Jim Henderson for spending a big chunk of his morning with us. Again, I'm sorry that it had to be recorded. I'm sorry that he couldn't be on video, but you take Jim Henderson whatever way you can get him. It reminds me of my sister, who passed away in 2019 before this show started. She used to read and listen to everything that I did. And I can't help but think about her today and how much she would have loved that little piece. And just brings back a lot of memories. Again, my dad passed away last year too. I know he listened a lot to Jim Henderson as well before he moved to Florida. So anyway, just thanks to Jim Henderson, and thanks to the Dat family for being a part of all these episodes. We still got a lot of show left here today, but I did want to say thanks. I know some of you got some other things this morning. Before anyone else goes off, you see the note on there. Please subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and give us a like. We plan to have many more great shows. This is episode 400. We got, what are we, Gabe, what do you think? 800 more, 1,200 more, something like that? I don't know. As many as we do. And then Gabe takes over, and he's going to take it to 40,000, supposedly. That's what I hear. Anyway, Rob, thank you so much. Solid interview, well worth the wait. Earl wants to feel that way again. We need to get another one. I hope so, man. I hope it happens while I'm still old enough to know what the hell's going on in life. You know what I mean? David Bordelon says, that was very emotional, going back in time with great memories of Jim and Archie, Coach Stram, Hokie, and Deuce. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that Coach Hank Stram was, apparently pretty demanding. Again, I got to meet him a couple of times. It was after he was coaching. He was done with coaching. He was actually done with broadcasting. He was great to me. I got to meet him a couple of times. Always nice to me. David +1 says he misses hearing Jim's voice. Growing up, he is the voice of the Saints. I love Mike Hawson. Again, he's been on the show multiple times. Jim Henderson is the voice of the Saints emeritus. Although I will say Mike is doing a great job. I hope to have him on the show again really soon. Great job. Thank you so much, Charles Mangus. God bless his soul and his family. All right. let's get back. We got to talk about some Saints stuff here. You see lots of changes since episode 1. That's how we're going to end the show. Maybe talk about a couple of things that have happened. But I know a lot of you, who's going to start a quarterback on Sunday? Does it matter? There were a couple comments before we went off and talked to Jim. I'm not trying to tick off the Rattler. I know when I say anything bad about Rattler, then the current numbers, whatever number we're at, they go down. People don't want to hear bad. I'm just being real. I'll show you a comment and we can talk about it. You can say whatever you want. You can think whatever you want. Again, the reason why I think Tyler Shuck, I don't think he's going to necessarily start the first preseason game. But I said this on Monday. I meant it then. Some of my friends in the media gave me some grief. Bunch of the members of the Dat family gave me grief. I'm telling you, we are seeing the signs of what makes the most sense going forward, that Tyler Shuck is going to be the starter quarterback for this team. Doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. I know some of you think that it matters. There you go. The numbers drop. They don't want to hear me talk about it. They don't say Tyler Shuck's going to start. My boy, the Rat's going to start. See, who dat daddy? Who dat daddy thinks the Rat's going to start? Okay. Rob says it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things as far as wins go. Where it does matter, again, is you got to know if you have something in Shuck. You can't spend too much of your season spending Rattler when you got to know if you're going to be in the same boat next year and if you're going to have to draft another quarterback. There's only one way to do it. Again, we said earlier in the show, preseason, not even preseason, but practice numbers, they don't matter. I mean, people keep coming back at me. Who's done better in practice? First of all, how do you know who's doing better in practice? Oh, you're getting the analysis from the people who are watching practice, and I promise you, you can just read through what they're writing and what they're talking about. And all these the people in the media are rooting for Rattler to win the job. You're not there. You're not saying. So what are we going to find out in preseason? I think we're going to find out a lot. What I said earlier was reading straight from Luke Johnson's story, NOLA.com/Saints. Rookie, and I'm quoting, rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck handled the lion's share of first-team snaps before the team split its work on its separate fields. A tactic head coach Kellen Moore has been using to steal some additional practice snaps in the allotted time. Does it mean anything? Not really, but it just the same as it doesn't really mean anything now. It didn't mean anything when Spencer Rattler was starting with the ones earlier in the week and people were going gaga over that. You know, David Bartolon, 100% right. Coming out of the game healthy is goal number 1 in preseason. Execution is goal number 2. The rest is gravy. No doubt. David +1 # from the running backs, tired of all the quarterback talk. We are gonna do more in the running backs next week. We had one show where we kind of spent about 20-30 minutes, but I don't know who my guest is going to be next Wednesday, but I promise you that is going to be a big part of the talk. Akers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kendra Miller, how many of the 3 make the team? Of those guys, I think Miller's a lock. I think Akers is close to a lock. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't know. Preacher Man said he doesn't care. Just win, baby. I know. I hear you. Earl's picks. Got to see how Shuck plays before the end. Who that daddy says because Tyler's drafted 40 overall doesn't make him QB1. He's a rookie. It does make him QB1. It 100%. If he ends up being QB1, that's why he'll be QB1. You cannot go through. I'm sorry. I'm not meaning to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm not trying to piss anyone off when I say this. I think anyone with rational, common sense football knowledge, okay? No one thinks with rational, common sense football knowledge thinks that Spencer Rattler has a chance to be the long-term answer for this team at quarterback. And the only people who even kind of think that are Saints fans who love Spencer Rattler. No one else nationally realistically thinks that. So could it happen? Sure. I'm not going to say 0.0 on that, but it's less than 1%. So my point is, what are Shuck's odds? I have no idea. I didn't like the pick when they picked him there. I'm not a big fan of Tyler Shuck. However, you drafted him with the 40th pick of the draft. You got to know what you have because you've got to know, especially if you have a top 5 draft pick, you've got to know if you're going to be in this boat again next year. Or do you need to draft a quarterback again next year? You've got to know. And the only way you can know, literally the only way you can know, is to start Tyler Shuck. It's the only way you can know. Anyway, other notes from camp. Jake Haener, this is no surprise. I think thinking of talking about things that we do know is, I've said this 100 times now. It's 75% Shuck in my opinion. It's 25% Rattler, and it's 0.0% chance it's Haener. Haener, also from Luke's story, has seen his workload dip significantly in recent practices. He did not get any opportunities after the Saints split the practice into two fields. It's Shuck or Rattler. There's no chance it's anyone else. As far as practice goes, the Saints had a lighter practice on Thursday. They have a scrimmage on Friday evening at UC Irvine's campus, continuing Moore's trend of ramping up towards heavy competitive periods. And look, I also read a story. Again, I'm not saying this because they're my employer. I'm telling you, our guys at NOAA.com/Saints, the Saints Insiders, have some fantastic stuff out right now. And there's a long feature. I think Matthew Paris wrote it, but I'm not 100% sure whether it was Matt or whether it was Luke. But talking about how this training camp is different, and that this is so many players are saying this is the best training camp they've ever been through. Not that anyone likes training camp, okay? But they're talking about how this is the best training camp that they've been through because of what Kellen Moore is doing, using science as well. I actually just saw an alert. We sent out an alert about it. It's a great story. I encourage everyone to go check that out. Preacher Man says he knows the Rat went 0-6, but who was on the field, especially with the O-line? I'm not even talking about the 0-6. And I've explained this, my feelings on this. The 0-6 is bad enough. I get he wasn't playing with the number ones. He wasn't playing with Chris Olave for most of it. He wasn't playing with Rashid Shaheed for most of it. But neither was Derek Carr when he came back, and they won 2 games when he came back. So Derek Carr could win, but Rattler looked like a deer in the headlights. Sure, it was his first 6-7 games of his NFL career. But the fact that teams adjusted, and we talked about his first half rating against the second half, nobody wants to talk about that. Okay. It's not just the 0-6 that I have a problem. What I have a problem with is that you have like a 95 passer rating in the first half. And then when teams adjust and you can't throw to your hot read anymore, and you have a 45 passer rating in the second half, there's a reason for that. It's because you can't adjust to their adjustments. You can't just throw to your first read. I think as we go along, we are seeing, and again, people want to talk about in Rocky, like he said, it's 3 weeks into practice. I mean, it's really 2 weeks into practice. 2 weeks into practice. And you're seeing comments like, Shuck is getting better. And I like when they say he's getting better, he's improving every day. But because I'm telling you, even the media is rooting for Smith. I don't get it. I don't understand why. They're telling you in so many words they're all rooting for Spencer Rattler. I don't get it. If you got to cover this team on a daily basis, wouldn't you want to know too who the team's going with? This is a ridiculous comment. You're just saying this because you want Spencer Rattler to win so bad. You're saying the same kind of stuff you said back with Derek Carr. Jake Haener might be QB1 and Tyler's number 3. 0.0% chance. 0. Because then they would have to expose Tyler Shuck. You can expose Spencer Rattler and he's not getting picked up. You can expose Jake Haener and he's definitely not getting picked up. There is a 0.0% chance that Tyler Shuck is the third string quarterback, because then you got to try to put him on the practice squad. He'll never make it to the practice squad. The 40th pick of the draft doesn't make it to the practice squad. What else we got here? Lance says, I don't think he'd start with Shuck, but he agrees we need to know we have, so he's a better, unless the Rat goes bananas in first 4 games, 0.9 chance percent he does. I've told you that. I actually think that's realistic. I think that the most realistic scenario for Spencer Rattler starting is because of that 4-game stretch that potentially Kellen Moore would not want to expose Tyler Shuck to. And he doesn't want to expose to an 0-4 start, which is a very strong possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. Breaking news from ESPN, Garrett Nussmeier is dealing with patellar tendonitis, but is not expected to miss any significant time. Oh, Lord. Keep your eyes on that. Whenever you start talking about a quarterback that has anything to do with a knee, you got to watch that. We'll talk more about that next week. Sean wants to know, wouldn't I say some of Rattler's failure to adjust may have been due to coaching? Sure, of course, some of it could have been. Not push for Rat, just an honest question. Absolutely. Absolutely could have been partly coaching. However, the fact that he came in like that, maybe it's coaching from before. I never saw anything from Spencer Rattler in college that impressed me. I just didn't. I'm just saying. And neither did 31 other teams in the NFL. How many times? I mean, I know I like to use this line a lot, but the Saints are not smarter than a fifth grader. There's a reason why he lasted to the fifth round. The Saints aren't smarter than everybody else, just like the Cleveland Browns aren't smarter than anyone else. And Shedeur Sanders is probably not going to start for the Cleveland Browns. Let's get realistic. You know? Gabe says, to be fair, 31 teams passed on Chuck. They didn't pass until the fifth round. So, anyway, I don't want to spend the rest of the show talking about this. I really don't. That's not how I was. I wanted to talk about a couple other things. Again, I wanted to let everybody know about, again, the scrimmage tonight, Friday night. You see, I think we're going to start ramping up, not just the quarterback one position. I'm interested in RB2, and I think it was Lance. Was it Lance that talked about it, however, earlier? Whoever it was. No, it's David Hash, I believe. I absolutely want to move and talk more about that next week. That's going to start shaping up. That's one of the things I'm going to be looking for Sunday game. The odds, by the way, as you see here, preseason week 1, did not change from Wednesday to today. Saints still a half a point favorite. They're a 1 point favorite at Caesars. I don't think I've ever seen minus 0.5. That is a weird. Usually you just go to -1. Not that there's a real. I guess in the grand scheme of things, the only difference is if the Saints were to win by 1, it wouldn't be a push. What are the chances of that happening? Over under 36.5. We saw Ravens went over last night. The Bengals-Eagles game went over. So remember how we used to tell you about some things we like. It used to be this way, but last year we saw a change. Not so much. Under's not hitting like they used to hit. Just saying. All right, we're going to get to Gabe in just a minute because we're getting ready to get to let me say that 10 times fast. AFC and NFC East previews, and Gabe's going to tell me whether he thinks I'm right or wrong. Again, if you didn't hear me say this before and you didn't notice already, on YouTube, I'm doing all of my team-by-team previews this year in the form of shorts. Much easier to pay attention to 3 minutes of me rambling on about a team. And then giving my prediction, I'm doing an over or under. I'm not necessarily picking divisions. I'll do that before the season starts. I'll give you exact records and orders before the season starts. But, Frederick, from one West Banker to another. That's right, darling. I'm thinking that the run game and defense will have to carry this team for us, meaning the Saints, as far as it can go. I agree, especially early on. That's why RB2 might be not as important as QB1, but pretty close. Alvin Kamara cannot see the touches that he's been seeing. Why? He's 30 years old. You can't give him the ball as much as you've been given. And then lastly, some news. Did y'all see this? Wednesday, they cut, not that it's that big of a deal. A lot of people don't give a damn who the punter is. They cut Matthew Hayball. He was 30th in the league last year, 25th in net punting. So now left at punter are James Burnip. You know James Burnip. How could you not know James Burnip? It's a stud. And Kai Kroger, another stud. I'm completely being facetious. I don't know who the hell these two guys are. They're undrafted rookies from Alabama and South Carolina. I got to say, I never noticed the Alabama and South Carolina punter. Although if I saw any South Carolina games, I probably should have seen a lot of punts. Does Kai Kroger know Spencer Rattler? Were they on the same team? No. Anyway, news there. Time to move on. We're going to end the show with Saints comments, but we got to get to Gabe. But first, we told you earlier we will let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Thank you for asking. I've been waiting for you to ask me that question all day long. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleans Nick Braden, Ron Hemelton, the folks at Evangeline, well, they'll begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the world, the whole wide world. They'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. Go ahead. I'll wait for you to try to find someone else. I'm kidding. I'm not waiting. I got too much to do. But I can tell you there are no companies with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. What's really important, Charles Mangus? It's for your life. You can find them at www, in honor of Buddy D, www.evangelinesecurities.com. S. Cali, great show. It's not over yet. Who dat, baby? Lance, Hayball had to go, but why in the hell is Morstead not back? Because Morstead is kicking for the Dolphins, Gabe? Is that who he's kicking? Yeah, how would he know? He's not searching punters. I'm going to look it up on live TV, baby. Live TV. Thomas Moore, no, the 49ers. Oh, see, I should have asked UBN. I don't know. Whatever. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. It's Friday. It's an hour and 21 minutes into the show, which means it's about 12 to 13 minutes later than usual. But Gabe Henderson is here. Have no fear.
I am here.
Oh, Lance wants to know, how bad is the GJ injury?
I don't know.
Is it Chauncey, whatever Johnson, Chauncey Gardner, CJ, GJ, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
One local reporter jumped the gun yesterday and said it was a torn ACL and he was out for the year. And
because they always got to be first. They don't care if they're right.
That was very quickly pulled back, and Adam Schefter said it wasn't an ACL. I don't know, but if there's one position the Texans can afford an injury in, it's safety. They've got 4 starting safeties on their team. So
yeah. All right. UBN, by the way, says he haven't seen this much love for a rat since he trained the Ninja Turtles. Okay. All right. CD News, baby. All right. We got to get into my predictions and what. So we're going to have fun with this each week as we go forward, get closer to the season. I'm doing 2 divisions a week for 4 weeks, even with my short math. 2 times 4 is 8. There are 8 divisions in the NFL. And the way I'm doing them is I'm doing them in shorts, and I'm making a prediction either at the end, although you don't have to watch the whole thing if you don't want to, because the prediction's actually on the screen throughout most of the short. And I'm predicting an over. I'm going by DraftKings, the over or the under win total for each team in the division. These are not in order. I'm going to start with the AFC. They were supposed to be in alphabetical order, but with my dumbass, for some reason, I did New England before Miami. So they're in the order that I actually did them. The AFC East, let's start with the Buffalo Bills. You know, usually I'm not a over 12.5 win kind of guy, but I got to tell you, for a first place team, they actually have a pretty decent schedule. All their toughest games are at home, and I don't see a single road game on their schedule that they shouldn't be favored in.
Well, they lost at Houston last year.
Okay, no offense to your Texans.
No, I'm not saying offense. Just the Bills will be favored in that game, but they did lose at the Texans last year. So that's one thing I noticed in your short is you mentioned Atlanta being the toughest road game before Houston, but they did lose in Houston last year. I agree with you on this one. I actually really like the value here.
I think that's worth betting.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I might just do it. I don't love betting over 12.5 on teams, but that is one of the easier schedules that I've seen in the league this year.
If I had to pick today, and I don't have to pick today, so don't hold me to this. If I had to pick today, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I went against Patrick Mahomes in my Super Bowl pick, which I never bet against God, but I felt like I had to, and I ended up being right. If I had to pick today, I would pick the Buffalo Bills to end their schneid and win the Super Bowl I'm not picking today, but I think right now they are the best team in the NFL. If I had to pick, if I had to rank from 1 to 32, I think the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the NFL. That is my opinion.
I would disagree.
Okay. Well, we have plenty of time to talk about that.
Yes,
By the way, Preacher Man, we're going to get back to Saints. So I know there's some, but I want to show this. Am I ready to say that Rattler is better than Haener? I've been saying that for over a year. I said it in last preseason. I've been saying that. I think the only time I was even questioning it is before they got into preseason last year. I was questioning, and I'd have to go back and look if I said it this way, that Haener was better than Rattler. I'm not sure if I said that or not, but I don't think there's any question that Spencer Rattler is better than Jake Haener. And I don't think Jake Haener is going to be part of this team anytime soon. Yeah, go ahead.
Sean said, do you think one of these quarterbacks can be equivalent to Trent Dilfer? I assume he means not very good, but win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, no.
They're the equivalent to Trent Dilfer right now. They're all shit. So,
and the Saints don't have the 2000 Ravens defense either.
Not exactly. And then Lance, 4 starting safeties. It's not even a homer thing. They traded CJ because they wanted to dump Kenyon Green, and the Eagles wanted to get CJ's contract off the books. 4 starting safeties, yeah. CJ, Jalen Petrie,
CJ
Bullock,
though can play corner.
He can. Bullock and Jimmy Ward.
Yeah, CD Deuce can.
There you go.
We'll be doing the Texans. That'll be the last week of our previews. I can't wait to get to that. All right, next, the New England Patriots. I know the New England Patriots are one of the darling picks among the media this year, and I ain't buying it. Look, I do think that Mike Vrabel is going to make this team better. I like Drake May. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in the long run. But you telling me the Patriots are going to go from 4-13 to 4-13 to a winning season? I ain't buying it. And their record's pretty tough. I mean, their schedule's pretty tough.
I'm buying it.
You're buying the over. You're with
this
everybody
is
else.
Is one of the two that we disagree on.
Okay.
Yeah. I think their schedule is really favorable. And when it came down to it, when I was looking and breaking down the schedule from a win-loss perspective, my thing is they just needed to split with Miami.
Yeah.
And I think Vrabel's a good enough coach. I think Vrabel's a good enough coach to get the better of Mike McDaniel once, maybe even twice. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. I think the Patriots
I don't disagree with that.
Sneaky weapons. And I think if they can stay healthy, I think their schedule is set up really nicely for them to win 9. I don't.
They got to play 4 out of 6 in the road early.
They're this year's Denver. I think they might make the playoffs. I think they'll surprise some people and go
playoffs.
Over, but I don't think they'll actually do anything. I think they'd just get run over in the playoffs. But
yeah, if they don't beat, look, let's assume they beat Vegas at home in week 1. If they lose at Miami and they don't, I have it in front of me. I don't have it that I can show on the screen, but here's the thing: they open up at Vegas at home. I'm going to call that a win. Yeah, but then they play at Miami and at home versus Pittsburgh. I think
they beat Pittsburgh.
They could, but I don't think so. I just don't. And then they got they'll beat Carolina fine. At Buffalo, they ain't winning that. At New Orleans, at Tennessee, they'll be slight. They'll be slight favorites, but
they'll win them both.
I don't think so. I don't think they're going to win both of them.
I'm very confident in saying that they'll win both.
Okay. Well, I'm not very confident that they'll win both. But even if they do win both, Cleveland, sure, give them the win against Cleveland. Then they play Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Jets. Fine. They're not winning at Tampa Bay. They're not winning at Cincinnati. They're not beating Buffalo on the 14th. They're not winning at Baltimore on the 21st. So I mean, right? I've easily found 7 losses in my opinion, and I just don't. Anyway, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I hear you. But again, I don't know that I'm going to bet this. I think I said this on the end of the short. It's not one I really want to bet. I'm not running to the window, but at the same time, I got to pick every one of them. I'm fading the public. The public's all over the over 8.5.
They are.
And I just, whenever the public's all over something, I'm going to go the other way. So anyway,
I like this. I mean, I think you play the Jets twice. That's 2 wins. You split with the Dolphins. That's 3. You play the NFC South. I think they can win 3 or 4 games in the NFC South. And there you go. You're already at 7. Now you're telling me they just have to win 2 more and they play at the Titans. That's a revenge game for Vrabel. I mean, I think they get to 8 rather easily. I really do think they get 9.
I don't think they have enough weapons to be as good as you think they're going to be. All right, moving on. The Dolphins. Look, everybody loved the Dolphins going into last year. The Dolphins are the sneaky pick to do this and win the AFC East. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. Dolphins are overrated, and they're one concussion away from having to start a backup quarterback, and go figure. They had to start a backup quarterback for 5 or 6 games last year. However, the odds makers went too far. That's a ridiculous number, 7.5. This is still a talent. You're talking about a team that was like 12th or 13th in defense. And of course, you can't assume Tua's going to stay healthy, but still 7.5 wins. That seems like I am no fan of Mike McDaniel, but I got to be honest. That seems like a bargain and a steal. I'm buying the Dolphins this year.
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't think the Dolphins win total should be below the Patriots. I think that's a little bit of an overreaction, be it from the odds makers or the public, when in reality it's a mix of both. But I will say, though, I agree with you. I think they go over. You mentioned in your Commanders short, which we'll get to here in a little bit, that you were that was the least confident you were in any pick, and you were hesitant with it.
Yeah,
this is the pick that I'm least confident in.
Okay.
I genuinely do not know what the Dolphins are going to be this year, and I don't know if they can stay healthy. Be it Tua, be it A-Chain. I just don't know.
They have an interesting schedule early on at Indy versus New England, at Buffalo. They're going to lose versus the Jets, at Carolina versus the Chargers. I don't know what the hell they're going to be, at Cleveland, at Atlanta. So to me, that's an interest. They could either be like 5-2 or they could be 2-5, and nothing would shock me.
Yeah.
And then they have 4 straight games that are not at an opponent's venue. The first 3 are super tough. They play home against the Ravens, home against the Bills, and then they go across the pond to play Washington, and then they have a bye week and they're home for the Saints before they go at the Jets. I definitely think they're going to win more than 7.5. Would it shock me if they won 10? I don't know if shock is the right word, but it would shock me if they didn't win at least 7. So then I only got to win 1 more.
Yeah, I agree. I looked at that schedule, I analyzed it, and I thought, I see 8 wins here, but I don't know. It's odds makers are excellent at what they do.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was sitting here wavering between 7 and 8, leaning toward 8. It wouldn't surprise me if they finished it.
Yeah, and we pick again. I'm doing every single team. I'm not betting all of these. I wouldn't. I'm not advocating to bet all of these. I would bet this one, but I don't. It's not my favorite. This one,
I wouldn't, only because their offensive weapons don't have a history of staying healthy, and I don't know if I can rely on Tyreek Hill. He's already said multiple times that he wants to quit on this team. He wants to trade. Yeah. I just don't know.
That's a good point.
It seems like a situation that's just waiting to boil over.
Yeah. No,
if things go wrong early, I mean, people are going to turn on McDaniel. If Tua gets hurt again, I mean, this season could go downhill so quickly. That's why I hesitantly.
No, that's fair. And you cannot trust Tua to stay healthy. And if they do stink, then get that Gucci wearing dude off my freaking TV. I can't stand that.
McDaniel.
He's a weirdo.
Really I like him.
He needs to go. He's so overrated. It ain't funny. Anyway, he'll be overrated in the parking lot if they don't win more than 7.5 games this year.
I disagree with that.
All right. Anyway, that's a whole different story. All right. We don't want to talk about people's personal characteristics on this show. Anyway.
Well, here, so can I make a prediction real quick?
Absolutely.
A bold prediction.
Go ahead.
This is just out of left field. Matthew Stafford's injury. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That. Yeah.
I think.
I don't know how hurt he is, though.
Matthew Stafford and the Rams struggle this season because of the injury. I think McVay takes a year off. I think McDaniel gets fired from Miami, and I think he takes over in LA.
Well, that's massive.
That's
a hell of a prediction. That's bold. Bold as hell. I don't agree with you. Bold as hell. All right, moving on to the GD Jets. I did some research. I didn't realize this until I looked this up. Do you realize they have only won 3 I don't know if did you watch this short?
Yes, I watched all of them.
Okay. They have won, for people who didn't, they have only won 3 division titles since they won the Super Bowl in 1969. That is, you cry about the Saints or whatever your favorite team is. I don't know that there's a worse team in sports than the GD Jets. And I'm going under with them again because as much as I like Aaron Glenn, and I think he is going to change the culture there eventually, it's not going to happen right away. And there's no way. I actually think Justin Fields is okay, but I don't think he's the future at quarterback when you're trying to turn a team around.
I also don't know if he can stay healthy either.
Yeah, that's true. He already got banged up a little bit.
This is the easiest under.
Yeah, that's
way too
high.
Very confident. And they got a tough schedule. Everyone in that division is going to be tough.
Well, let me call it up as you're talking.
Yeah, of course.
They are okay. Home. This is how it starts. I mean, this is like got overwritten all over it. Versus Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't think they're gonna. Let's say they lose that one. Okay, it's not a gimme. I think they're gonna lose. Okay,
Aaron Rodgers is gonna have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He's gonna have.
He's not someone who lets someone get the last laugh.
100%. So here it goes. Versus Pittsburgh. Versus Buffalo. At Tampa Bay. At Miami. Versus Dallas. And versus Denver. Versus Carolina. I don't think they have a chance to win a game, honestly, until they play Carolina. Now, some people think Dallas stinks. Whatever. We'll get to them in a minute.
I think they have a chance to beat
But
Dallas.
Then at Cincinnati, okay, then they got a bye week. They play Cleveland, New England. Maybe they'll win one of those. Maybe they won't. Then they play at Baltimore, Atlanta, Miami, at Jacksonville. I mean, and then they finish, by the way, they wrap up the season with Buffalo. You ain't finding 7 wins on that's might be the easiest of unders.
Yeah. I did not have a tough time with that one.
All right. So we both very much agree on that. For the most part, we agreed more than we usually agree. Let's see what happens here when we go to the NFC East. And the NFC East, again, this is not in the order I'm picking the division. It's in alphabetical order. So don't say, I can't believe you're picking the Giants. No, I'm not picking the Giants ahead of the Eagles. Whatever. It's literally in alphabetical. It's the order that we ran them. Start with the Dallas Cowboys. What a mess. I think we're going to disagree on this. I'm not 100% sure because we kind of talked about Dallas a little bit. But I think Dallas is an absolute mess. I don't think they're fixing it this year. I think Dak's coming towards the end of the line. They don't have a running game worth jack. Micah Parsons, we don't know if he's going to sign. Even if he does sign, their defense is below average at best. This team's in a mess, and they need to they're almost where the Saints were. They're almost in a position where they need to hit the reset button.
I don't know why you think we'll disagree. I completely agree with you on that. I think Schottenheimer was a horrible hire.
Horrendous.
I think other than CD, that offense has very little to write home about. I think the defense, I think their defensive backfield is incredibly overrated. They get a lot of interceptions, but they get burnt just as many times. I think not Denver. I think Parsons, it ends up extending. I think the writing is on the wall. Jerry Jones is not going to trade away a superstar. He's going to milk this situation just like he did with CD, and he loves the headlines. He loves the attention. But yeah,
Cowboys have some a couple easy games early that they could win a couple. But I mean, listen to this schedule after their Week 10 bye week. Okay, at Vegas, fine. They play the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Vikings, the Chargers, then the Commanders. I mean, that's brutal. And this team is not good. And I think this is another easy under for me. I'm betting this is easy under for me.
Javonte Williams is not a number 1 running back in the NFL. I'm sorry.
He's not.
And I'm tired of people masquerading him around like he is.
Yeah,
he's just not.
The Cowboys are terrible. All right, moving on. I don't want to spend a lot of time. The Giants are terrible. I don't care who plays quarterback for them. Jackson Dart probably will play at some point. I like Tyrone Tracy. He's fine. I like that Scatterbo could come in and be been to play. Malik Neighbors is a fantastic receiver, but I think their O-line is awful, and I think their defense is just mediocre.
No, their defense is going to be very good.
Whatever.
Their defense is going to be very underrated.
I'm not running to the window because I'm never running to the window to bet an under 5.5 because that's so low. But if I had to take one, I'm taking the under on the Giants too.
I'm also taking the under on the Giants. However, it's got nothing to do with that team.
Okay.
I mean, you know more than
Poor
anyone
Daboll.
I have long defended Brian Daboll. I think he's a very good coach.
I do too.
I think that defense is going to take another step in the right direction with Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter might win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Dexter Lawrence is incredible. I mean, that defensive line is going to wreak havoc on opponents. I think Russell Wilson will be better than expected because I think Brian Daboll knows how to get the most out of a quarterback.
I don't.
I like Tyrone Tracy a lot.
I like Tyrone Tracy as well.
That schedule just does them no favors.
No.
They might have the toughest schedule in the league. So So in my notes, I wrote Giants under. I agree with you. However,
what do they do, Gabe?
They're going to be better than expected.
What do they do if let's say they show a lot of improvement, like they go through and they improve and they're in a lot of games and they don't win them? Do you let Daboll go through this again if they're drafting top 5?
Yes.
I mean, I do, but I don't know if they do.
Here's the thing. It'll depend. I mean, it's hard to answer that question now. If they go through and they're competitive in games, but they just lose a lot of them, I think it'll depend. I think if Jackson Dart comes in and he plays well and shows promise, I think they'll keep Daboll. But if Jackson Dart comes out,
I hope they do, because
and he looks terrible, then I think Daboll will get fired. I think he's a good coach. This is such a cutthroat league, and I think it's gonna. If Jackson Dart does not hit or show promise this season, it's gonna be a rough year for the Giants, and I think they're gonna have to hit the reset button again with some key pieces already in Malik Neighbors and Abdul Carter.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Rob says the only reason to watch Giants is to see if Dart has potential and if Scatterbo has what it takes in the NFL.
I disagree.
UBN says Scatterbo would be better than Genty.
Well, UBN's been beating the Scatterbo drum for
what's the over? If I gave you right now over under combined wins, New York football teams, and I put it at 10.5, you taking the over or the on?
No, I'm taking the under. I just like I said, I mean, I think the Giants are going to be a good football team. I just don't think they'll win games, and that sounds weird, but
it's like the Saints.
I think they are markedly better than the Saints.
All right, well, we'll find out because they play in the Dome. I think in week 5. I think they play.
Yes, and I like them to win that game.
Well, they're favored, so we'll see what happens. All right, moving on. I am tired of bashing Nick Sirianni. I've been bashing the weirdo for a couple years now, and he just keeps winning. He won the damn Super Bowl last year. They deserved to win the Super Bowl. He lost both of his coordinators. I went into last year saying they're not going to be as good as people think because they lost their coordinators, and they won anyway. Kellen Moore's gone. It doesn't matter. I'm not dissing him anymore. Over 11.5. Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not betting it, but I don't even care if I'm wrong. I'm not dissing them anymore. The Eagles deserve some GD respect.
Jim, who plays running back for the Eagles?
Saquon Barkley.
Over, and that's all I have to say about that.
That's all I'll have to say about that.
Sirianni deserves some respect.
I think I'll go home now.
He might look like an idiot, but my God, he can coach football.
Rob's right. Keeps winning. I don't have to like him. 100%. Anyway, that's just the whole thing. I mean, I'm not dissing him anymore. I think I've said under like 2 or 3. I got to go back and look. I think I've said under. I don't know. Last year, I definitely said under. I'm not saying under anymore. If I'm wrong, so be it. All right. Lastly, not least.
Read David's comment real quick.
Okay. I'm giving Eagles respect now, so they'll lose. Jedi mind trick, baby. Now you're starting to get it. Yeah, by the way, the Giants, Saquon Barkley. You let him go to your most hated rival. Because believe me, the Eagles are the Giants' most hated rival. How do you let that happen? All right. Anyway, Lance says, Giants better than Saints?
Yes.
Come on, Gabe.
Markedly better. Yes.
The odds makers think so. Right now, Lance, the Giants are favored. The Giants are favored over the Saints. The game's in the Dome. The Giants are favored right now.
Yes. I think
so. If you feel that strongly about it, go bet it. Anyway, last not least, look, Commanders over under 9.5. Team came out of nowhere. I love Jane Daniels. He might be my favorite overall player in the NFL. I'm biased, but I'm trying to put my bias to the side. And I think that the Commanders are due for some regression. Gabe, they also have a tough schedule. I'm not a fan. I'm speaking of coaches that I've dissed before, and I will diss again. I'm not a Dan Quinn fan at all. I think that Jaden Daniels got sacked 47 times last year. At some point, that comes to bite you in the ass. They got problems with chemistry. Terry McLaurin, if he doesn't come back, they're in trouble at receiver. They might be in trouble anyway. I don't care that 30-year-old Debo signed with them. Their running game is and their defense was good, but it wasn't great. I'm sorry. I just don't think the Commanders are following up with 10 wins or more. I'm taking the under 9.5. I'm not running to the window to bet it, but I'm taking the under 9.5.
Do you believe in trends, Jim?
Of course, you know that I do.
Do you know the last time a team went back-to-back as the NFC East champion?
Oh, man. I'm going to assume that the Cowboys did it 10 years ago.
Nope. 2004.
Wow, I did not know it was that long ago.
The Eagles won their 4th straight division title. That was the last time a team won the NFC East back-to-back times.
Who was it again?
The Eagles.
The Eagles. 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
That's crazy.
So,
that is crazy.
I like the over for the Commanders.
You do? You like the over 9.5?
This is one of the two that we disagree on, and I know I mentioned it earlier.
I don't love it, so I'm not going to argue with it.
I like what they've done in the short term. I think they have realized that they have something special in Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Who could have predicted that?
They definitely do. I mean, what? Yeah.
Who
way to go, Bears.
Maybe two guys.
Great pick, Bears.
I don't mean to. I like Caleb Williams, too.
Oh, come on. He's no Jaden Daniels.
No, he's not.
He never will be.
I agree.
And I think we both would have said that before. We're not just saying it now.
Yeah. But what they've done is they've gotten better now. They've added a bunch of key veterans to compete now while Jaden Daniels is still on his rookie deal. Yes, they've gotten significantly older. Yes, they will have issues down the line when you have to pay Jaden and you have to replace these retiring guys. But I like what they've done. They've given him a new weapon in Deebo Samuel. Say what you will. Their receiving core, if they retain Terry McLaurin, is better this year than it was last year. They've bolstered their offensive line. Laramie Tunsil, yes, he has false start issues, but he will not give up sacks from that left tackle spot. And that is the most important thing for this young quarterback. And their defense has gotten better as well. And I think it'll continue to improve under Dan Quinn. So I like the over.
There's some interesting pieces of their schedule. They go to Green Bay in week 2. I don't think they're going to win that game, but whatever. Even if they do, they play.
Here's the thing.
They have a stretch from week 2 to week 8 where they only have 2 home games, and that kind of bothers me.
I agree. It's something to be worried about. But let me tell you this. There are a certain few quarterbacks in the NFL where with them on your team, with them at the helm, they have a chance to win every single game that they play. Not saying that
they also have a chance to lose some games they shouldn't.
Run the table, but they have a chance to be in and at the end win every single game that they play. And I think the Washington Commanders have one of those quarterbacks.
Yeah, I just think
I think he's the only quarterback in the NFC that you can say that about, honestly.
Yeah. David says Tunsil on the O-line is supposed to be the one to save Daniels in those sacks he took. 47 sacks. Yeah. Rob says they have talent. It's being wasted. Who Dat Daddy says he lives 10 minutes from Cowboys camp in Frisco, Texas. Don't bet on him. I'm betting against them. Yeah. And Sean wants to know, do I think Caleb Williams is a bust? We'll do the NFC North in 2 weeks. Gabe says absolutely not. I say absolutely 100%. But I said this before he was even drafted first. I said the Bears were making a huge mistake. I don't like Caleb Williams. I don't think, and we'll say, look, he's got the the offensive coordinator that everybody loves, gushing over as head coach now. We'll see if he makes a difference. I don't think he's going to make a difference. The bear is going to bear. I think he's a bust, but we'll find out. All right. Anything else you want to say before we head on? We're way over time today, but I knew episode 400 would be way over, and I'm cool with it. It was a lot of fun. And you and I will be able to talk again Monday on Mono E Monday.
Yeah. Just some final comments on Garrett Nussmeier. I know you talked about it next week. Brian Kelly said on a scale from 1 to 10, where is he at with his worries? He said a 1.5. Nussmeier's already throwing again. He's practicing. I mean, I think unless this is something that's going to linger throughout the year, there's no real reason to be worried. So,
yep. Preacher man, thank you, my man. Have a great rest of the show. We're just about done today, but 400 has been special. And while you're here, want to give you a shout out because, man, you've been with me. I went back and looked. March 1st, 2024 was when we changed how we did this show. We had a meeting. You were still at NOLA.com at the time, and we had a meeting, and we were kind of merging the Bayou Bet show that we used to do, and you wanted to be a part of it. And then, I mean, there's no other way to say it. You were let go by the company, and you still wanted to be a part of it. And you have helped me immensely, and I appreciate you more than you know. Thank you for being a part of. It's been 151 shows since we did this. You came on to episode number 249. I had to go look. So 151 that you have been a part of, and I appreciate it. And who knows how many we got. I hope we have 1,000 more. But if we only have one more, I appreciate you, and everybody needs to know that
more than one more.
Look, these days you take
off our NFL previews early.
You take nothing for granted, and that's one thing. Young gun, let me tell you, young gun, as you get older, don't take a single day for granted because you never know when the next one's going to be. So, but anyway, thank you for all your help, and we'll see you Monday.
Appreciate that. See you Monday.
Yeah. All right, everybody. A couple more minutes of Saints talk. Like, I'm serious about Gabe. I mean, dude had no reason to help me after he was let go, but he wanted to. He wanted to be a part of the show because he believed in what we're doing, and I would assume still believes in what we're doing, and or he wouldn't still be here. And I appreciate him very much. I appreciate all y'all very much. S. Callie says, Gabe rocks. Charles Mangus, Gabe, you bring great insight. Lance says this Gabe guy's kind of shaky. We'll let him come back anyway. Rob, thanks for an awesome number 400, man. Let me tell y'all something. As we go off here this morning, and I like to get sappy every now and then. By the way, Who Dat Daddy says thanks, Gabe, too. And Chad Gage, you were late. You were late, but you were here. You definitely need to go back and watch Jim Henderson's interview. For those of you that came in late, go back when we're done and watch the interview. But our next show is Monday, August the 11th. We'll be back to our regular schedule. Well, we never left our regular schedule. We're doing what we've been doing. Starting Monday, we'll be, again, our shorts. It'll be AFC West and NFC West. So UBN will be thrilled about that. We'll get to the San Francisco 49ers next week. And then we'll be doing our regular schedule. Monday is Mono E Monday. Wednesday is the guest. I don't know who the guest will be. And then Friday, we're going to kind of start getting into our schedule, what we're going to do during the season. Zach, if you didn't hear me say this before, Zach Ewing, who is our Saints editor here at NOLA.com, is going to be my regular Friday guest, kind of taking over. I started with Jeff Duncan a couple years ago. That was for 3 years ago. He was my Friday guest for 2 years. Larry Holder did it last year, and then Larry's got things going on at the Athletic, and I just thought it was important to have one of our own people as our regular guest, and so that's what Zach's going to do. And at some point, UBN's going to come on and make his weekly picks. We're going to have our Pick'em show. Haven't figured out the exact format for that, but Gabe will be a part of that as well. So as we transition here into going forward and talking about real football, David, congrats on episode 400. He's new to the show since around episode 330-ish, but he makes a point to catch them all now. You are definitely a part of the Dat family. Maybe, I know, I'm guessing you don't do YouTube, but yeah, that's where most of the YouTube family lives, right? Just give us a subscribe. Give us a like. Let's see. Earl says, thanks, Gabe, for always adding great insight, but the Texans still suck. Not compared to our football team. Let's just say that. No. And lastly, again, real quick as we go off this morning, or this afternoon now, 400 episodes. I told my wife this last night as we're going to sleep, and I did have that Seahawks Raiders game in the background. I was trying to go to sleep. I never once, when I asked Zach if I could start this, as we were doing Bayou Bets, and I was just doing this show on Fridays, and I always wanted to have my own podcast, and I didn't even ask him if it could be part of NOLA.com. I just asked him, do you mind if I do this on the side? And then Zach was cool enough to say, no, not only do I not mind, go ahead and run a little story on bet.nola.com, then you're doing it. And I did. And the next thing you know, it became part of my duties. And next thing you know, after that, in March again of 2024, it became my job. And it is my job. And you people are part of my family, especially the ones we see on a regular basis. Who Dat Daddy and I, we don't agree all the time, but I love you, Who Dat Daddy. I'm glad you're here. And everyone else, go Saints. He misses and he loves New Orleans. How could you not, man? How could you not? Charles Mangus, definitely a part of the family. Have a great weekend. Go Saints. Who Dat? It is football time. Saints Chargers on Sunday. That's what we'll be talking about on Monday, on Mono Monday. We'll be talking about what we saw. Of course, we'll probably be leading with the quarterback, but we will be talking about how did Kellen Moore do? What did we think of Kellen Moore? What did we think about RB2? What do we think about the defense? All that stuff. Chad Gage says big thanks to all who allowed this show and me. Thank you so much. And as Errol says, last comment of the day, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already. Give me a like. It helps. Oh, the old algorithm. I've told you about the algorithm. Old algae. All right. That is going to wrap it up for this Friday, for this show, number 400. I want to not only thank today's guest, Jim Henderson, but of course, we wish him very well. If you were listening, he told you about some of his health issues. He is recovering from his health issues, and we're thinking about him. So as we go forward, think about give Jim Henderson a couple prayers when you go to sleep tonight, because he is an icon of this city, not just in the broadcasting world. Jim Henderson is an icon of New Orleans, in my opinion. Of course, we thank Gabe as we did, and we thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. You are my family. You are here. And we say happy birthday to Ella Derry Sunday, birthday number 14. Happy birthday to her. Again, Mono Monday coming up. Talk about what we saw, Saints Chargers. Reminder to subscribe. You see it there. We told you already. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast, including Apple. So if you don't want to see my ugly mug, you can just listen. Apple, Spotify, many more. And also always find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. Bet me on bet.NOLA.com. Saints Insiders on NOLA.com/Saints. Gabe Henderson on sportsbookreview.com. Have a wonderful, glorious, fantastic weekend. Gabe, we made it. Here's to another 400 episodes, maybe 800 more, maybe 1,200 more. Who knows? We'll see. And we'll see you on Monday. Everybody, take it easy, my friends.